Okay, good morning. I'd like to call this meeting of the Ellis County Commission to order. All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call roll?
Commissioner Neil Younger.
Present.
Chair Nathan Liker.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Any changes to the order of business? Nope. Okay. Moving on, prior minutes. Commissioner, have you had a chance to look through it?
Yes, I did. Everything looks good.
Okay. I didn't see any problems, so moving on to our consent agenda.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through G.
Okay. Got a motion. I'll second that. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda is approved. Next, issues from people not on the order of business. Anybody from the public wish to speak? Okay. Moving on. Introduction of new employees. I don't see Jennifer out there.
Jennifer is on extended leave at the moment. We did have one employee that was scheduled to be here today. The new employee with the communications department was Brady Bryant, and he just started. Sorry, kind of winged it here this morning, but maybe at a future meeting next month we can include him at the introduction of new employees next month.
Okay. Next, Ellis County Conservation District update.
I'm short. Good morning, and thank you for allowing us to come here this morning and give you an update. My name is Linda O'Neill. I am the district manager for the Ellis County Conservation District. And with me, I have a couple of my board members. This is Travis Groff. He's our board chair right now. And this is Alan Roth. He is one of our board members. And we also have Stephen Walters, who is our district conservationist with NRCS. A few things that I would like to tell you about is in September we had our first farmer-to-farmer meeting. We invited producers from the community. It didn't matter who they were or what they were, what kind of agriculture or anything else that they were doing. They were invited to farmer, where we had a sit-down luncheon, and we discussed things in Ellis County. We discussed what they were doing that worked, what they were doing that didn't work, and they exchanged ideas. And one of the things that I walked away with from that meeting was that some of our mature producers are worried about what is going to happen in the future. When they pass away, or are their kids going to farm the land, or what are they going to do? And so that is a subject that we want to address in the future at another farmer-to-farmer meeting. And we had a local working group in April. That is where. Sorry.
Can I add something on that?
Sure.
That was planned for like an hour and a half. That meeting we had
Oh,
on Thursdays, and we had lunch for everybody, but I think it was probably 3:30 before we got. It was probably 4 hours of conversation, so it was really good meeting and feedback and conversation between the group that was there.
Yes, thank you, Travis. We had almost 30 that attended that meeting, so it went very well. We were very pleased with it. We had a local working group in April. That is where we bring producers together and they visit with NRCS staff, which of course is your National Natural Resource Conservation Service. Yes, thank you, Stephen. Anyway, they visited with the staff, again, what is working, what is not working with NRCS programs. And actually, out of these local working groups, NRCS has adjusted some of their policies. So we are actually planning, those are once a year. And we had one yesterday. We had 21 attended yesterday over in Russell, and it went very well. We had our annual meeting in January. We had 230 people attend, which was 50 people up from the year before. We did hire a DOC archaeologist in February. He came on board. He is actually from Maryland. He wanted to move out here to Kansas, so he's been on the job since, I believe, the 5th of February. We do have plans to have another farmer to farmer, either the end of March or the beginning of April. We were just discussing that a little bit ago, picking out a date and moving forward with that. And we are going to hire an intern for the summer, and we already have 3 applications for that. We have 2 college students, and we have 1 high school student for that. Our funding and cost share, do you have that piece of paper in front of you? Or Lori, can you? Next one. There we go, thank you. We receive cost share funds. We receive from the state every year. In July, we are allotted an amount of money, and this is how we help producers put conservation practices on the ground. This can be cover crops, this can be terraces, it can be rangeland planting, it can be windbreaks. And in 2024, July, our original allotment was $28,224.66. And I have the wrong dates on those. Those are supposed to be 2023. I apologize. So our original allotment was in July, and then they had a window open for extra funding for the whole state. And if we had applications, we could get them in. And I'm proud to tell you that Ellis County, with the help of NRCS, we got in on $79,957 for Ellis County. And a lot of that is cover crops. We have 1 range planting, but those are conservation practices that we have put on the ground, or putting on the ground here in Ellis County. The next slide, Lori, please. We also have our non-point source pollution fund. That money comes from the state. And in July, we were allotted $9,694. And then we had a couple of other projects, one project that we needed a little bit more money for. So we got in on the extra funding pool for that, and we got an extra $5,305 for Ellis County. And that is money that comes from the state. We are the administrators of that money. Other money that we have is the county funds that we get from Ellis County. And in this last year, we paid to have, we gave producers we paid for 3,500 feet of terraces in Ellis County for conservation practices. And right now, we have a producer that is going to be using the rest of that allotted funds, the $10,000. He is going to be doing a terrace rebuild project. So all of that money will be spent too. Ellis County Conservation District itself put in $32,000 for conservation practices, and we have used quite a bit of it for terrace rebuilds. We did 3,400 feet of terrace rebuilds and 60 acres worth of cover crops. So I would like to go back. Lori, can you go back up 2 slides, please? Right there, thank you. This is what we have done with the 2024. This is all of the cost share funds together. We put 14 miles worth of terraces on the ground, and that actually protected 492 acres of soil in Ellis County, and we protected 368 tons of soil in the county. We kept it here instead of blowing it away with the wind like we had yesterday. So right now, we have 8 applications that are sitting on my desk that we are hoping to fill, and that is with all of the cost share funds that we receive. We have 4 applications for waterways. We have an application for cover crop range landing. It's still a little early to look at next year. And then we have, I need to make a correction there. Just the other day, I got another one, but we have 3 applications for windbreaks here in Ellis County. So we do have a need in Ellis County for conservation practices. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen, our district conservationist.
Okay, I'm sure the commission here knows what the NRCS does, but for for everybody else in the room and those watching, the NRCS has a unique relationship with our local agency, the Ellis County Conservation District. We partner together and work together every day to get conservation on the ground. So it's almost like when somebody walks in, they don't know that we're two separate entities, which is important because we're here to serve the local producers. The NRCS is really in the somewhat unprecedented time in my lifetime, and with the introduction of the Inflation Reduction Act, the state of Kansas will receive approximately $90 million to put on the ground. Thus far in 2024, they've allocated about $20 million of that, a little bit more. And through the work here in the district with district employees and NRCS employees, Ellis County thus far has snagged almost $2 million of that. And that's money going directly to our producers. We work really hard. We work in conjunction with the Ellis County Conservation District to get the producers through the door, get contracts written, and really do good work through terrace work, cover crops, soil conservation efforts. I would anticipate this year that we may approach $3 million out of that $90 million that the state has allocated. So when we're looking at, we're just one county out of 105, we're snagging almost 30% of that monies. So really excited about that, and I'm kind of proud about that with my new employees and the district efforts here. So just wanted to share that with you as you guys talk about that. And another thing I want to talk about is, as you guys are the ones that really meet with your local constituents, I see a lot of the same people come through my door, right? So as you're talking with them, you have the ability to share that with your constituents, that there's significant cost share opportunities to get conservation on the ground. Not just your rural guys. We were also leading the state this year in urban conservation. Hard to believe, but high tunnels and stuff like that, we've got almost $100,000 worth of high tunnels. So small producers also come and see us, and we're getting them help and funded through their practices as well. So, any questions for me?
What would be a hive tunnel?
It's essentially I call it. Most people think of it as a greenhouse, but you're actually still growing plants in their native soil.
Okay.
So.
Kind of like a tent over the ground.
Okay. Well.
They're white. Most of them are white. You drive around the country and you'll see some kind of white hoop sitting out there.
Hoop houses.
Plastic ones that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarification.
Yeah.
And who educates people on that kind of stuff? Like us or you guys that you're coming through the door?
I think if you talk to the board, that's one of the struggles, is how do we communicate effectively with the vast variety of producers that we have. And it is a struggle that we've talked about at multiple board meetings, at local work groups, is how do we get the information out there? And it's something that we're trying to figure out, because everybody receives their information in different ways. So, my perspective is, you guys talk to a lot of people, and you're meeting with a lot of producers that may not know that I even exist, right? And I tell people when they come through the door, if you're doing something on your property that is improving that property from a conservation standpoint, there's likely cost share if you walk through my door to help you with that.
Gotcha.
that's why we have some of the farmer to farmer, and try to communicate the best we can. But I think the story Linda told and Stephen was fantastic, and the money they were able to get in addition to what we normally would have, through having people come in and fill out contracts. And we have to have contracts to be able to get that money. So
One of the things the state does, say we get additional money, the state allocates around to the county and stuff. And if they don't use it by a date, say July 1st or whatever, it all comes back into a pool, and then we can submit our applications and our requests, and then they divvy out that money that wasn't used back to counties that have requests. So with Linda's effort and Stephen's effort, top of stuff, we get that additional money, which turns into economy for the Ellis County.
Gotcha. Great. I appreciate the update, and looks like you've put all the funds to good use and then some. So
I do, go ahead.
go ahead.
I do have one other comment to make. Thank you guys for recognizing us at your banquet, although we all weren't there, which everybody has commitments. I really do appreciate that. You guys said it to the whole audience there that we're working with you, and I think we're very proud of that.
We appreciate the partnership with you as well, so thank you.
All right. And the farmer-to-farmer thing, what is the chances of one of us being involved in that?
I'll be honest, I actually attended the,
Okay.
I attended, and it was a great meeting. So it was nice to see the comments and the different people that were there.
The intent of that farmer-to-farmer meeting is that local, like I said, local producers start discussing, and then it just gets into conversations that we don't have to lead it, or we don't, there's no PowerPoints and there's no presentation, it's just discussion. People can share what they do that works. Some people say, I tried this and I had some problems. Somebody may correct, identify things incorrectly. It's just a coffee shop discussion, but it's kind of organized and led.
Okay. All right.
And we'll let you know when
Okay.
we decide on the next date.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. I appreciate you guys coming in and giving the update. That means a lot.
Well, thank you very much for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you. Take care. Okay. Next, we have Casa of the High Plains.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Johnson, I'm Executive Director for CASA. I have with me Kara Burkholder. So I'd sent in a couple lists of paper. I think it's pretty much the same thing you guys have seen on repeat. I just basically updated the numbers at the bottom. I think I talked with you guys in November, December. I was right on the edge of getting case assignments. I was pretty sure about it. I got 10 cases assigned to our program right at the New Year's split. So assigned to us in December, and advocates taking oaths in January. So that would account for some of my, case acquisition looking like this in -- and children being served being different in -- So that's why numbers might look odd. But, so with the money that you had allocated to CASA, we had basically 2 advocates get certified in October, one of which was me. I have to be an advocate certified. We got a new board member in November. And so with those case acquisitions, we are now up to our numbers of children served as we were in 2021. I'm expecting those numbers to increase in 2024 with just the cases that we were assigned. Of the 10, 3 have already moved to permanency, and that is in large part to our advocates' work in that. They got 2 gals that were on those particular cases, got big accolades from all the court staff that they'd worked with, the DA, guardian ad litems and such as that. So I'm very pleased with the direction the program has taken in 8-9 months. Another thing that I think is a pretty positive mark for us, we have a training coming up this Thursday with 3 of the judges. It's going to be an in-person training at the courthouse that actually they instigated to train myself and the gals we've got. Just kind of a courtroom walkthrough with what to expect if things, what they like to see in court reports and what to expect if you do get called up to testify and things like that. So things would be a little bit out of the norm. They go through our training, they're like, oh, you're not going to be asked to go up, it's very rare. Well, it's not as rare as we'd like to think. So it's just best to be prepared. But to have 3 judges on board for talking with us about how they like, what they want to see in court reports, other questions to ask, that is the whole reason we're there, is to give these judges an inside view, what they are not going to get from guardian ad litems, attorneys, DCF, St. Francis. So it's going to be, I'm pretty cranked about the training that we've got coming up on Thursday. So with these 2 different sets of numbers, and anything else that I've given you.
Well, it seems like it's really picking up since you've taken over about a year ago, or probably a little.
Yeah, I may. So yeah, coming on it,
So
yes.
I'm glad to see it, and I'm glad to hear you're really pushing forward and getting people involved in it.
Thank you, thanks, yeah, it's
Especially for the children.
very much so. I mean, that's the whole point of this, and there's plenty of them. You know, it's nice to have the program serving the purpose that it's there for.
And I appreciate everything you've done and do. Like I say, our children are our future, so very good.
Well, that's absolutely it, you know, and that's one thing I believe is, you know, you can take care of the folks that have made it this far into adulthood, but if you don't take care of the youth that are gonna get there, nobody else is gonna get there, so.
So are you seeing any upcoming problems facing your organization here in the near future? Lack of volunteers or?
Well, I mean, so the next step, I mean, we are absolutely maxed out on case acquisition. I have written exceptions for case acquisition for us to take in these numbers that we have. So, you know, to increase the volunteers is, you know, our next step, and we have already got in place ways to expand into some of the other counties. I do have 2 advocates in Gove. I have a case in Gove. Most everybody else is here in Ellis, and the majority of our cases are here in Ellis. I need to expand into Trigo and Rooks, and that's in the works. You know, again, largely the bottleneck is me. I'm the only staff member, and so to take on, you know, get new volunteers in, and that takes a while, and that's, you know, ballpark $1,500 each to get them trained and through all that. The inquiries that I've had into volunteering, when I hand over, okay, you know, love to have that inquiry, here's what it takes, I don't hear back. I don't know exactly what the standard is, but I've had at least 6 inquiries since I've been here. And once it's heavy. I mean, this isn't, you know, take them out to the park, you know, have a good time, and then just drop them back off at home. This is very serious work, and it's background checks, and it's clearances, and it's the time commitment. You know, you can see in our, you know, volunteer hours already in 2024, the volunteer hours that jacked up in 2023. I mean, these advocates put in some serious time on these cases. You know, because depending on who all the child is involved with, they might be talking with, you know, step-parents and grandparents and foster parents, and talking with law enforcement. They might be talking with school systems. They might be talking with nurses. They might be talking with doctors. It can be very consuming. So when people see what that entails, that's often the end of their inquiry into CASA advocacy.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. That's
That
good
is
to know.
nice that we have that amount. Well, there's not that many volunteers, but they're putting a lot of hours in for just 5 of them. Hopefully you can get some more and
Yes.
do that, but that's a lot of hours.
It's a lot of hours. These ladies are not fooling around. And
Off
our
to
board
them.
has incredibly, I mean, that the board hours that have been put in 2023 since I came on in May, you know, it's been pretty remarkable. So, you know, everybody's putting in the time and effort that it's going to take to salvage this program and get it into what it needs to be. You know, so I appreciate y'all's financial support, because, you know, well wishes and, you know, we're here for the kids goes so far, but I mean, it comes down to the dollars and, you know, getting the dollar coverage to get these volunteers through the training so they can work for free. That's what it comes down to. So I greatly appreciate y'all's support.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we appreciate the update and look forward to working with you in the future and seeing where this goes.
Thanks. Yes, very much. Well, I reckon I'll see you guys again in the summer, and hopefully have more numbers. So
Okay.
thanks very much.
Keep up
you.
your hard work. Okay. Next, we have emergency medical services HVAC upgrades.
Good morning, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. Your next item to consider is the replacement of the HVAC units at the Emergency Services Building on 22nd Street. As the Commission is aware, that building has seen significant humidity issues since the day it was built, and several years ago, once the county was to receive the ARPA funds, this project was set aside as a priority issue, but as a couple years down the road to get completed until after two of the larger HVAC replacements were done at the admin and law enforcement center. Since that time, those projects have almost completed, and moving on to this one, started meeting with Joe Glassman of Glassman Corporation to look at the design and the issues of this building. We'd sent sensors throughout the building. We adjusted the temps, whole bunch of different airflow, inflow requirements that were in the building were changed, just to see if any of the what all could be done to determine what the best solution for the humidity is in there. As the Commission saw last year at the budget session, there's multiple, I think between 4 and 5 daily dehumidifiers running in the building that have to be emptied several times a day each, just to maintain a humidity. I believe the humidity level at that day when we were in the building was 79%, and the suggested thresholds are between 45 and 50%, so well over that, which has caused issues of condensation on the windows within the structure, caused the metal, some of the metal in the building to rust, and doors to not be able to open and shut properly because they've swollen so bad. And we were wanting to get on top of this before it gets too bad, so that way we don't have any future concerns of consistent humidity issues in the building to cause mold, and we don't have any at this time. So with the work of Joe Glassman doing all the tests, we came up with a set of specifications for a design build process to replace the HVAC units to a different type of unit that would be appropriately sized for the building to monitor not only the heat and the cooling, but also the levels of humidity within the building to temper the building at a way that it would reduce the humidity out of the air with heat. Reheat coils, I guess, is what he referred to them within that, with a certain type of system. The bids were let out and to the general public, and 2 bids were received. One, the low bid was from Central Consolidated, and Mr. Joe Samia is here today. He can come up and speak as well. The 2 bids were received. Central Consolidated out of Wichita was the low bid. And after reviewing the proposals, some of the items that we had requested within the RFP weren't initially identified or presented in the proposal as requested. But after further consultation with Mr. Samia, those items were identified and corrected and with included in his proposal. The biggest issue being the request that we had to have a third-party outside consultant, professional licensed engineer in the state of Kansas, design, build the system with stamped drawings in conjunction with the contractor to ensure that the specifications of the equipment were met and designed properly and installed properly within the building to make sure that it's actually going to fix the issues with the humidity. And since that time, Mr. Samia has identified that he will use Basis Consulting out of Wichita.
Would we like to have Mr. Samia come up?
And he can speak to some of this, but there was that question and a lot of other clarifying questions within the bid that after the proposals were received, Mr. Samia answered all the questions to ensure that his bid did meet the qualifications that we requested within the proposal. So I can turn it over to Mr. Samia if you have any questions for him.
Okay. So I'm going to assume you've gone and toured the facility and seen the problems that are presented there?
Yes, thank you for having me today. I did tour the facility with Chief Myers and my chief estimator before the proposal. We walked the job. We looked at, we went up on the roof, and then we looked at the drawings as well. And then we received all of that information after the visit, and then we assembled our bid, and you have the proposal in front of you as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess just hitting on a few things that, I know some of it was you were an engineer yourself by trade, is that correct?
Yeah, actually went to school at Fort Hays and graduated from University of Arkansas as a mechanical engineer. I got my license in 1992, so I'm a professional engineer, and I can stamp drawings, I can do the design, but also in our bid, we have a allowance for a third-party engineering, if that would be the, preference. Basis design, Greg Wigley is the engineer as well. And I visited with him since our last communication with Chief Myers, and he's ready to, perform the work. He will do the design, will stamp the drawings, and then after completion, he can make sure that the equipment has been, commissioned the project to make sure that they are done like his design.
Okay. I guess, what kind of time frame do you expect for this type of project?
So the equipment, there are 12 to 16 week lead time.
Okay.
And after, after receive a contract or purchase order, we have our due diligence to do the design. That'll probably take about a couple weeks, and then we can release the equipment thereafter. And then once we receive the equipment, it'll be, we're putting about 3 weeks total, 2 weeks to replace the equipment, last week to do the commissioning.
Okay. So it'd be midsummer, August timeframe, probably?
I think in my schedule, I predicted that we're going to get a purchase order by the end of February, and I think completion was middle of July or towards the end of July.
Okay.
Not a good time to be changing air conditioning, but, that's when we receive the equipment.
Right, okay. Will this become more efficient or than what we're currently using? Is it going to help our efficiency in the building?
Yeah, not to be too technical, but, what you have right now is you're just cooling and heating the air in the space. And as you know, Hays blows a lot of air, it's very windy. And if you don't maintain the positive pressure in the building, then you're going to have a little infiltration from the humidity. With these units, it'll introduce a lot of outside air to kind of pressurize the building, and then it does have the reheat coils. So if the temperature is satisfied, then the humidity is not, then it'll condense, it'll cool the unit, and then the reheat will come on to maintain temperature. So yeah, it does, it is a lot more humidity based unit than efficiency-wise, because the unit's going to run a little bit longer to dry out the humidity. Instead of having multiple units in a space, then it's going to be centrally located now.
Okay.
I think long story short is they'll probably be less efficient because they are going, right now we've tried to change the temperature in the building all the way down to 60 degrees to try to run the air conditioners longer, which is essentially overcompensated the coils within the units and completely saturated the coils with water, as well as the air or the ductwork that's leading to the unit, so it never really catches up. So the new units are actually, like Joe said, going to run longer because it's going to have to essentially have a reheat coil, heat the air up to suck the moisture out of the air, and then cool it back down after that in the summer months to maintain, a set point of 70, 72 degrees.
Gotcha. And then, but we'll be getting rid of a bunch of dehumidifiers that are currently running around the clock. Okay.
We better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what was complicated at the beginning of the bid process was we didn't see a different engineer like what was, proposed to do. That kind of made us go through a lot of stuff. And I guess the only question I have is on the 7-ton unit, just so we don't have change orders coming in. Is the conductor size going to be big enough for that 7-ton unit?
Yeah, I definitely will confirm that with our engineering, with our engineer, but that's what we have right now. It's a 7, it's called out at 7 ton, but the BTUs is rated for the 7.5, and the CFM is rated for the 7.5 ton. And that's mainly one unit that's, I think it's on the northwest corner of the building that serves the offices on the west side. Because of the west side, you know, there's a bigger heat load in the summertime. So that was a little bit probably undersized originally. But yeah, it will be sufficient to take care of what that load will be on that side.
Yeah, because we got to keep our employees on that west side happy, so, but yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's going to be during change out. They probably won't be happy with us for a day or so, but you know, we'll have to schedule that with the staff and make sure that it is not 100-degree day when we're changing them.
Okay. Yeah, because it did throw up a flag to me when Darren and I were going through some of that stuff, your collusions that were on there, and I'm going, something's not right. And then Darren done some footwork with you and got it, and that building's sitting on a wet hill. I worked for a utility company, and I know when I installed the gas line, that was nothing but mud. I don't know what happened there, but there should have been something at that point in time, but that's water under the bridge, so anyhow, so we've got our work cut out for that for a while until we get that straightened out.
I think that with these units, it'll help the tightness of the building. It's a little bit, we noticed there's a little bit infiltration coming in when the wind is blowing. And again, you know, the wind blows all the time. So with this, it's a step up from what you have.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming today.
All right, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
Appreciate
Yep,
it.
thank you.
If there's no more question, I'm just going to head back to Wichita. That's okay?
The wind won't blow you back.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Just one last piece of clarification too, that as for a part of the project, one of the alternates that we did for the unit was, or for the project, was to see if there would be any interest in the proposals for the construction of the project manager to be able to buy the units back. The proposal from Central Consolidated had the highest bid for the alternate of purchasing those 7 units for a total of $3,500. When we were doing some research and reference checks in regards to Mr. Samia and Central Consolidated and working with the school district, they had some interest in buying the units from the county. There is still some life in them, and they're just be more, the school district could use them in a location that's more adequate for the way those units were designed instead of how we need them to be. So the school district is offered to the same price as what Central Consolidated is to buy those 7 units at that same bid price from Central Consolidated at 3,500 units to be able to use it some of their future projects coming up within the 489 school district.
$3,500 total.
Total.
Okay, not $3,500 a
I
unit.
can try to ask for 3,500 apiece, but
Oh, okay. I'm glad you brought that up because that was the point I was going to bring up before. So do we need to make those changes in our motion for this PO?
no, I think the main motion just needs to be approval of the purchase order itself, so that way we can get the contract going and they can start their design process to enhance the order process of the units. And if you just give I think the verbal authorization to sell those same units as the bid that was outlined from Central Consolidated, we'll just take care of that afterwards. And I did ask Mr. Samia that once those units are replaced, he will deliver those to the school district
Okay.
when that time comes.
Okay. And we've checked references on the work and on the, of both the engineer that he's proposed and Mr. Samia's as well.
Yeah, I did check with some individuals from the school district. They checked with some of their construction company contractors that they have at the high school and as well as the college. Cruz is another, I think it's called Cruz, is one of the units or the firms that the school district is using. They had good reference checks. Mr. Joe Glassman, which has done a great amount of work to help us get to this point. He also spoke high of Central Consolidated as well as the Basis Consulting engineering firm that they would be using. It's the same engineering firm that Joe Glassman is working with the city of Hayes on the fire station out on 41st Street for their mechanical engineering as well. So he, obviously, Joe was upset, or not upset, but he wanted to get the bid, but he got, didn't have the low bid, but he still had high things to say about Central Consolidated as well as Basis Engineering, or Basis Consulting.
Okay. Okay. Well, any other questions or discussion?
You did say Consolidated was going to deliver those units, or 489? Okay.
We might have to work with 489 for their forklifts or some
Okay.
loaders to get them off afterwards when they're delivered, but they would at least get them to them, and I'm sure we can work something out.
Okay, good.
With them.
I think you know somebody.
What's that?
I think you know somebody with the 489.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Well, with that, I would move to approve PO number 7810 to Central Consolidated for the replacement of the HVAC equipment at the Emergency Services Building.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. And I also would like to thank Mr. Glassman for his work on the building and throughout this whole process. So I understand, it's understandable that he didn't get the bid, but I do appreciate his work throughout the process.
Yeah, I also appreciate that he walked through the building and helped us on that, so.
Okay. Next, the Law Enforcement Roof Center, or Law Enforcement Center roof.
The next item is to consider a change proposal to the roof that was approved to be replaced in December of 2023 at the Law Enforcement Center. Mr. Luke Haynes with Roof Masters is here to kind of give you some more technical information as to the lightweight system of concrete that they would install over the roof. So I guess, so I don't speak out of turn and say something incorrect about what it is, I can,
No, you're
Mr.
good.
Haynes, give you an update.
Thanks for hearing me this morning, guys
Yeah.
and gals. And it's not very often that you come in and request for your contract to be lowered. So I think it's an advantage. I went up there a few weeks ago. Again, I've been up there many times and just racking my mind how we're going to tackle this project because it's very difficult. And quite a while ago, I through our association, which is the Midwest Roofing Contractors Association, I met some guys that do lightweight insulating concrete. And I thought, I'm going to call these guys just to see what this looks like because the way that the roof system is at the Law Enforcement Center, you guys know it, like there's a lot of HVAC, gas lines, electrical lines, there's just a lot of stuff to go around. And when I was up there looking at it, I'm like, how am I going to keep this watertight at the same time of getting production? And I thought, well, you know what? I want to look into the lightweight insulating concrete. And so upon doing that, I found out there's a lot of advantages. I sent this email to Darren. You may have read it. There's about 11, well, there's probably more than 11 advantages, but one was you get better R value. So the existing system right now has a concrete deck. The building was built to actually have another story on it. So the capacity is really good for, it doesn't even need to be engineered. But the existing system is a concrete deck, and then it has tapered roof insulation with a cover board, and then an EPDM rubber roof. And so right now it has really good slope. There's no ponding on it. The only problem that we had with the hailstorm is the membrane is coming unadhered, partially unadhered from the cover board. And so tearing it off, that's one way to do it. But then when I thought about doing this, you go in and you actually pour lightweight concrete. And the concrete weighs about 5 pounds per square foot, which Here I am standing right here, about 230 pounds square foot. So in reality, the 5 pounds is not very much. The roof will perform exceptionally well because it already has good slope. We wouldn't tear the roof off. So we would go in and pour the 2-inch lightweight. So what it is it's concrete, but they actually produce foam. And so instead of just water, it's foam and concrete, so it has foam bubbles in it. And so that's where they get the lightweight, instead of just regular 2-inch concrete, it actually has foam in it. And it has really good properties. The one is better R value. So right now you have really good R value, you have like R30, but it's going to increase it by like another R of 4, which is really good just for a deck. And then obviously there's minimal disruption of the building because no tear off of the existing. So you can just imagine if we had to tear off all that, it goes from like 2 inches all the way to 10 inches. So you can imagine the amount of dumpsters that we would be filling on site, taken to the landfill. Well, that's decreased, so that's a plus. Really, there's no chance of leaks during construction because the existing roof stays in place, so we don't mess with it. We just use it as a substrate to pour the new deck over. The new system gets adhered to that concrete deck. So we don't have to put insulation above it or anything. We use a TPO, which is the white roofing, and it has a fleece on the back. So you can imagine like a fleece blanket. So it has fleece on the back side of the sheet, and we use a special adhesive to the deck and put that directly onto the deck. So it's a great system. 20-year warranty. Again, the debris from the tear-off is eliminated, which also means the production schedule is quicker, faster. We won't have to take all that time in protecting the public from all the debris that's going to come off and the mess and all that. Energy efficiency is upgraded. Timeline, by my estimation, I think that the overall timeline will reduce by like 4 weeks of re-roofing, which is good. So that means we can get in and out quicker. The re-roof in the future. So when this needs to be re-roofed, and it will, 20 years from now, 20, 25 years from now, hopefully my son will be doing this and I'll be not. But you just go in and pull that membrane off of the deck. The deck is fine, and then you just re-roof it to that deck, which is a great option versus tearing it all the way down to the bottom, The system receives a severe hail rating because we pour that deck over the top, and then the new membrane's right over the top. When we get hail, like it would take, I don't even know. I don't want to be around if we have hail that damages this roof. And the start date would be like next week. So overall, I think it was a $38,000 reduction. I don't know of anybody that ever comes to you and says, hey, I want to reduce my price and do the job quicker, but there are some benefits to it for us too, for the labor and the trash and some materials, so all that's taken into account. So do you guys have any questions?
Well, I do. So having been around concrete and hearing concrete roof, the only type of concrete is concrete that is cracked or will crack. So how is this going to hold up with that?
Yeah, it actually does really well because there's not a whole lot of traffic on it, right? So typically the reason why concrete cracks is
Stress load.
Stress, weight. Really, there's not much stress on it. It allows, and the foam allows it to expand and contract. And there's a thing called heat sink. So, if you go outside in the evening and it's been a nice warm day, you can actually feel the concrete will be warm, right? So it takes quite a bit of while for that heat to leave the system. Well, that's actually a benefit to the roof system because on typical roofs, the heat leaves immediately and things change and move. Well, with that system, it's more gradual. So, and even with warming up, it's the same. So it's an advantage of that system. But the cracking I mean, all concrete cracks. But again, I mean, it's not really a concern on a lightweight deck. These decks are typically used on high-rises, on hospitals, and they have they're fire resistant. So like this even increases the ability for the building to have, you know, even a greater fire rating if that's even possible. It already has a concrete deck below, Class A insulation, which is the best you can get for insulation, and then it has, you know, another Class A deck on top of it. So
Got it. So we're not gonna, are we gonna be adding any insulation on top of this?
you
or
don't
is this-
really have
we're
to.
just
So
gonna
you
put-
already have the insulation stays in place.
Okay.
So on a new building, when this system is done, the way it's done is there's a metal deck that's typically put down, or a concrete deck, and then they put the slurry down, and then they put the insulation in the slurry. Then they pour the 2-inch deck over the top of the insulation to give it the slope. So you're foregoing the insulation because the insulation is already there.
Got it.
So the tapered insulation's there. We're just putting typically, it's a deck that goes on top of it.
Okay.
So
And then all we're gonna do is put a membrane across the top.
that's right. And then we can just go with the membrane, and we don't. I mean, there's no chance for it to leak. Like it's really I believe it's probably the best option that we have for the
Okay.
amount of time and keeping everybody in the dry and getting a new warranted roof in place.
Gotcha.
And there's savings too. I think it's
Yeah.
$38,000. So that's,
Right.
I don't think you can argue with that, but.
No. Darren, have you checked with our insurance company that this would qualify and give us the rating of having sufficely replaced the roof?
Correct. I visited with K-Camp, which is who we're insured by, and currently the roof is uninsurable because it was hailed out. And it's uninsurable until
Gets a new roof.
Until we do
gets a
something.
new roof on it.
Right.
But this type of roof system with the new TPO, the concrete deck and everything will be fully insured once again after the project is done. And there's no issues from K-Camp's perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, my concern, but you answered that, Luke. Thank you for and I had talked with Darren on adding additional weight on
Yeah.
that if it was, checked to make sure that we were structurally, sound, and that answers that. The other thing, where all of our stuff penetrates through the roof, that concrete is poured right up against that, or is there some type of a deal that goes?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a gap that's left right around all that. Yeah.
Okay. Then also the seams, are those all fused, or are those all glued
So
seams?
on the roof system, the roof system is a TPO membrane, which is a thermoplastic,
Okay.
and all those seams are not glued.
Okay,
They are welded.
okay.
Yes. So it's a welded seam. It's in the roofing industry. It's the best seam that there is available today. It's the heat welded. Yeah.
Okay.
Not typical, we get a cost reduction like that.
That's, we need
So-
you to come back a couple more times yet to, save us some funding.
You can do more roofs.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Luke, appreciate that. Any further questions or discussion?
I have none. I guess start date?
Next week,
Okay.
weather permitting, right?
Gotcha.
With this agenda item as well as the last, I also want to mention Greg Herbert. He's been a very vital part of this process and looking through the bids and making sure we're getting the right products for the buildings. And so I just want to thank Greg for his help. He does an excellent job for the entire county, not just these two projects, but thank him for his help as well.
Definitely.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. So we don't actually need to approve anything on this for the change order?
Correct. We don't have a change order. It's just the change of the scope of the project or not necessarily the scope, but just the process. And then when we get our final bill, it'll just be that $38,000 less from what you can see on the quote that was attached. And I
Right.
believe that was part of your consent agenda for signatures if this was approved today.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good. All right. Next, we have the City of Hayes chip seal project.
Morning, Commissioners. Brendan McKay, Ellis County Public Works Director. So before you use requests from the City of Hayes to assist them with sealing of some of the roads around the parks and the sports complex. So the City of Hayes hasn't come to us in my 3 years of being here for assistance with chip sealing, but the county has assisted them in the past with building the sport complex and sealing some of those roads out there. So it's very similar to what we do for the City of Ellis and City of Victoria, where we have the machinery, they provide some of the labor, and they'll do the flagging or load up chips. So the only thing it costs the county is fuel, equipment, and labor hours. But all the materials will be used on the project, the oil, the seal oil, and the aggregate, whether it's a sand seal or a chip seal, the city pays for that directly, so there's no hit to the operating budget.
Okay. Any discussion?
I have no discussion. I guess if we can look at the map, that way all our community can see what we're doing, and
So it's the areas in red, so around the parks, around the bypass, and then the sports complex routes.
okay, very good.
The rest of their map is the stuff the city's taking care of themselves or using a contractor for.
Okay.
And I'd also like to thank Mr. Rohr for coming, support the city, so very good. I have no problems with doing that. We should. I mean, we're all in the same community in the county and support each other.
Yeah, and you're going to coordinate this with when we do other projects in that area then?
Correct. So this will probably take place during harvest when we're trying to stay off of the main roads for the farm and ag community.
Okay.
That's usually when we do the seals for the cities. So it keeps our people and equipment off the big roads when there's a lot of people in vehicles that may not always be in them, trying to carry a lot of weight to elevators, so.
Gotcha.
And they have their product at their facility, or are we
They'll
still?
be purchasing it.
Okay.
Okay.
I move to approve the Ellis County Public Works Department to assist the City of Hayes in completing their chip seal project utilizing county labor and equipment.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carries.
So in the same vein, the City of Ellis has asked assistance. They usually are the first ones to get us a letter. I did not attach the map. It was black and white, so it was hard to read.
Okay.
But I included the amount that they want to do. So it's 460 tons of aggregate. You're about 170 tons per county mile of roadway. City streets are wider, so 2.5 miles roughly is what they're looking at. They also asked, and I have to wait and see later this week or early next week, we should have asphalt oil prices. Their mayor has asked them to redo Washington Street, which the county maintains the 24-foot center driving lanes. It's not on our list to do next year, but the mayor wants it done. They want to do their parking lanes along there. So if I'm able to work it into my budget, we'll increase that as well. If pricing is where it is projected to be, I may not be able to do that project, so they may hold off a year or two on theirs.
Okay. But that's something we're going to coordinate with the city?
Yes, I'll be working with John on that.
Okay.
Okay, I guess I'll move to approve the Ellis County Public Works Department to assist the City of Ellis in completing their chip seal project utilizing county labor and equipment.
I will second that. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Not done with me yet, sorry.
No, we're not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Cathedral Avenue Phase 2 reconstruction.
Yes.
Thank you.
So as the commissioners are aware, in 2022, we were awarded second cost share grant for Cathedral Avenue to finish up that project down to Old 40 Highway. As the grant was written, we will get up to 60%, we'll get 60% of the eligible construction costs, up to $700,000 awarded back as a reimbursement to the project. So as part of this, we need the CE done. Kirk and Michael successfully applied for this grant for us. They did the design work. I think it would be best if we continued to use them for the construction engineering inspection in case there's any change orders, or they're the ones that have the most knowledge of this project. It's best to give it to them. And on the other token, Boats Parga, who also did the first phase of Cathedral Avenue back when I started in 21, they were the low bid for phase 2. So I'd recommend with the engineer's agreement to award them the bid for that project.
Okay.
The reason for the delay was railroad, communication with the railroad does not happen fast, nor does it happen much at all sometimes.
Gotcha. So this is going to be just taking what has already happened, the northern part of Cathedral, and extending it south?
Correct. So tear out new concrete all the way through, keep the same height for the railroad bridge. It will
Okay.
not be shortened any.
Okay.
That's why we looked at reconstruction instead of we did not receive the grant, the county was going to be doing overlays on it, and we potentially lose some height clearance there at the railroad bridge, but since we were awarded the grant, this is the best case scenario for that roadway,
Okay.
and replacing some of the drainage structures that are along there.
That's what I was going to ask, is we're
Not
going
the
to...
bridge, but there's a large culvert across the road that goes from east side of the road to the west side that brings water back down to the west side of the bridge. I don't know why it was designed that way. I would have just kept the water on the east side and carried it down to the bridge, so it wouldn't have to cross underneath two structures, but the amount of utilities on the east side of the ditch, looking at it with the engineers, it's just cost prohibitive for us to
Move
that
change.
ditch across. But we're placing that tube and repairing the scour that's happened at the discharge side of that tube.
Okay. We're going to add any, like, aggregate, like crushed or concrete or anything to...
Rip-rap and
Yep.
on that discharge side there.
Okay.
So you can't even, it's completely covered by trees. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize how severe the washout was behind it until we covered ourselves with tick spray and climbed down there. Because it's quite a ways down there, and it's eaten back. There's a tree root that's looks like it potentially caused it, so that tree will come out as well, part of this project.
Okay. Okay.
The width's going to stay the same, correct?
Yes, sir. It'll
Okay.
match up with what's existing with the concrete there.
Right. I just have to smile because I remember when that all took place with the cathedral, and then all of a sudden you applied for the other one. You were happy as a lark, and
Well,
thank you for...
So I felt, since I live over in Victoria, I didn't feel right applying for the same area twice, so I had my staff decide on what project we should apply for. Generally, you do not get grants back-to-back years like that. We basically did it with the city's project on 13th Street, 3 application cycles in a row, received grants to Ellis County or in Ellis County, which is not common. So I'm very thankful from KDOT for these grants. We've gotten quite a few grants from them. My time being here, I added up, it's amounted to almost $8 million between the grants we've gotten from the feds and KDOT since I've been here. I hope it continues. I'll keep applying for them, but it'd be good to get it completed. We were waiting on the railroad. We intended to put a retaining wall underneath the railroad bridge just for appearance and to help keep material from washing down off the railroad bridge. There's going to be more cost to this project. And the railroad got back to us that they wanted $15,000 to even consider looking at the plans to allow us to spend more money to only benefit them. So I said, no, well, it's a maintenance project, so we'll give you $2,000 and we'll go back with curb and gutter like it is.
Got it.
I didn't feel right spending $15,000 to allow them to look at a plan for me to spend more money that's only going to benefit them.
Gotcha. Okay.
It would be very interesting to know when the last time there was any kind of work done on that stretch from Old 40 up to, what, 6th Street or 7th Street, whatever it is, but
So we had done seals prior to my time here, and then we also did get a grant for rumble strips and pavement markings there,
Okay.
right at Cathedral and Old 40 and Pfeiffer and Old 40.
but nothing major, and nothing like this.
No, nothing like this. County seal work and county maintenance is the
Yep.
only thing. No major projects to it.
It's due, it's past due to
Yep.
do something.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, I'll move to approve PO 7804 to Kirk Michaels and Associates for construction engineer, PO 7813 to Vogts Parga Construction LLC, and sign the notice of award for the reconstruction of Cathedral Avenue from 6th Street to Old Highway 40.
I will second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Brendan. Appreciate you heading that up.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, cold mix request for proposals.
Yep. So earlier last month, we received the proposals we had submitted for producing the cold mix we'll use for our asphalt maintenance season. We received 2 bids back, one from Heft & Sons and the other one from APAC here locally. With the Hefton Sons, they only provide just a mixing cost. The county supplies all aggregates. APAC supplies, as the bid asks for, mixing costs and reductions for if they supply the aggregate themselves, or vice versa. Looking at what we have on the ground and what we have for our budget, I recommend that we go with the Hefton Sons proposal for the mixing cost, with $16 a ton for the first 8,000 tons, and then $13 a ton mixing cost afterwards for any remaining we do. The plan currently is to do 10,000 tons of asphalt, to do the 12-mile year program that the county commissioners selected in budget season last year.
Okay. Couple of questions with that. Have prices changed from the time where we kind of adopted a plan of action on our asphalt? Oil prices, aggregate prices, had things changed?
Some of the aggregate prices did increase quite a bit. That's why we are pursuing different options for avenues for the aggregate. We have the aggregate on the ground for this amount of asphalt already purchased or PO'd for, or it's on the ground currently, so that shouldn't affect it. I've been hearing from the manufacturer that the oil should be similar pricing to what it was last year, so similar amount to what was budgeted, but until I get that exact number, I can't tell you for sure. The mixing cost did go up slightly from previous years, but I had a little bit of increase set aside in there.
Okay.
And we purchased some of the aggregate for this year with prior year funds, because it's best to have all that aggregate on the ground ready to go by 24 rock in 23, 20.
5 rock and 24.
Correct.
Got
So
it.
that way we don't have delays with shipping, and production of some of those materials are 13, 14 tons an hour material, and we're not the only ones trying to buy it. So it's better to have it on the ground and ready and waiting than be
Got it.
hand to mouth with it.
Question on the oil. We've had some problems with some of our overlays and such. Have we
Aggregate?
figured that out?
Yes, we are not going to be using that aggregate at this point in time.
Okay.
It was the leading to believe the aggregate is there's a positive and negative charge to your oil, and there's inherently a positive and negative charge to any aggregate. Very minuscule, but there are ways to test it. We don't have any ability to test it here, but we have had supplier test it. Thankfully, that rock went up $25 a ton because it looks pretty, but it does not last for us, so we're not able to continue moving forward with that. The aggregate that we have used in the past, we're going back to, has never had an issue with the adherence that we're seeing on some of these roadways. So it's a new product. There may be moisture that is in there that we're not getting properly tracking that's causing it to break out, or it's that positive negative charge. So we use same oil because it's the same charge for all the lifts and overlays. Also because it's the closest one that can be produced. We would have to go even further away to get the other cationic oil
Okay.
or anionic oil.
Okay. Questions?
Back to I see we're gonna do several miles of sealing.
Yes, sir.
Commerce Parkway to Toulon. The driving surface is good. The center's starting to peel up. Was there some issues there with some adhere?
Yes, so that is an
Okay.
area we had similar issues back in 22 with that same aggregate, that purple chip rock that we were getting railed in from St. Louis. We're using the same oil that they use over there in the St. Louis area from Mount Iron. It's just not working here. So whether the underlying rock has a different charge that's causing the polarity to change and cause it to lift, or because the aggregate is a uniform one size without any fines to help the oil climb up. So what we'll have to do on that is a fog seal, which is $4,000 to $5,000 per lane or per mile. It's basically a very, very thin, light coat of oil that helps consolidate it and keep the chip loss down. So we had to do that it was on Toulon Avenue, north of I-70, going up towards Catherine. We had the same issue with chip loss that we fog sealed. Section of Antonino and a couple miles on Ellis Avenue south of Ellis that we had to do this treatment to. So a fog seal is an appropriate seal treatment. You get another, you hope, 3 years of life out of it, but basically it's just a very thin, light coat of oil that helps bond your chips down and keep it from breaking out. And seal off little micro fractures.
Okay.
Prevent further oxidization causing further chip loss. But that's why that area is marked, even though it was just done last year. I need to do something before there was an overlay put underneath it. If I do not seal off that overlay, that whole road will start to ravel. So something has to be done, unfortunately.
So, are you seeing this going to happen on 280th also?
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either,
And
but
that was an area we mixed some of that newer aggregate with the older aggregate that we've used in the past on all the county roads.
okay.
And we haven't noticed any of this flaking. And some of that could be caused due to the snowplows. The way it's broken out, I wouldn't say so, but some of it did. In all likelihood, you do lose some of your aggregate when you plow a roadway with snow. And as you guys are well aware, we did get a lot of heavy snow, and we were using graders to plow off some of our paved roads. So there's no relief on those, whereas a snowplow has springs and it's held on chains so it can float. Grader blades are down. So when that snow started and we were trying to keep all the blacktops open for traffic, we had our road graders on there with their blades. So they could have caused some of those breakouts too, and chip loss.
So couple of spots on this map, right there south of Hayes on the, what I would consider the old highway.
Yep, 240th.
240th. Coming down that hill, is an overlay the best option at that point?
No, tear out go back with hot mix would be our best option, but I'm working with what I have to work with. We need to smooth out those routes. You have a lot of heavy truck traffic there.
Mm-hmm.
As you're aware, you get those ripples because asphalt is not, it's not hard. You park a bicycle or a motorcycle on an asphalt road or a parking lot, you come back out, there's a reason you make those big kickstand pucks. It is soft, it's a flexible pavement. Cold mix is even softer yet than hot mix asphalt, but that's what the weight of the trucks and the heat, it causes that asphalt to move. And you get those waves in it.
So when was the last time that portion was overlaid? Because it felt like it was fairly recent. I'm just wondering.
We did south of there recently. We did not do that north section.
Okay.
So we did that south section in 21 or 22.
Mm-hmm.
But we stopped at Spring Hill Road going north. We did nothing to the north at that point in time.
Okay.
So I could go back on the system and look, but it'd been at least 6 years, I'd say.
Okay. I'm just curious if that's, if we know that it's a kind of a problem area, because there is a lot of truck traffic there. There's a tremendous amount of trucks on that area.
Yep. So there was a seal done at least 6 years ago, I would say, to that section. So with this new plan of getting everything on this 7-year cycle, it's due this year for an overlay, and also trying to, because we've had to be so reactive and not proactive in the past. That's why we're bouncing all over that map.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get us back into working in areas and not going from one side of the county to the other side and then going back, doing a mile here, a mile there. Trying to make things fair in the past. What's fair is to do it right by everyone, which means starting to get to, okay, we're doing this whole area. I'm mobilizing my equipment one time down here and doing this section this year. And then next year I won't do anything on this part of the county and I'll do it all over here. We'll never get to that. And I'm not saying that we won't be patching any other paved road in that point in time, but trying to get it so we're minimizing our movement. Because we lose time trying to move from north of Ellis to south of Ellis, or from Ellis to Victoria, or over to Walker, or down to Pfeiffer.
Mm-hmm.
We lose at least a day to move and mobilize equipment. So with trying to do more, trying to consolidate the areas we're moving so we can just road the machinery from project site to project site instead of having to stop and load everything up. Spend a day moving everything, staging it, and then go back out.
Well, and this map really doesn't give justice, because over on Ellis Avenue, the south 5 miles is going to be addressed through a different process.
Yeah.
I guess you've done a very good job of trying to consolidate your equipment moving with the city of Ellis chips and the city of Hayes chips. I guess the only outlier is going to be that 1 mile stretch over on Pfeiffer Avenue.
There's 2 miles there. There's 1 mile up to the north and one in Pfeiffer down at the county line.
Okay.
Yep. That was a section there on Piper that did not get an overlay in the previous 2 years. It's been fixed either side of that mile
Okay,
because
So-
we didn't have the amount of budget to fix everything in one stretch that would have been preferred. So we did a mile here, and then the next year we skipped a mile because that mile was still in all right shape, and did the 2 miles north of it. So now to try and get that so I can tie in those 4 or 5 miles together in one project,
okay.
I need to hit this area. And it does need it.
Oh, yeah. So by picking up some of these miles here and miles there,
It may
this,
not seem like it needs it, but all these roads do need treatment. And it's trying to get it so that way in 7 years from now, I'm not going down to Piper to do 1 mile. I
Okay.
can do 5 miles or 4 miles at a time.
okay,
Minimize the downtime between movements.
okay. So we're gonna see some of the cleanup the first year on
Yep.
trying to get everything on a schedule.
Yep. And then the portion of Antonino going off Ellis Avenue was traded last year because we had such bad blowouts on Buckeye Road.
Mm-hmm.
So Buckeye Road was supposed to be done this year. We had to move it forward and do it last year because the road would not have lasted to this year's asphalt season. So that actually helped us kind of get that in line there on Antonino Road. The stuff between there that is not marked was done in the last 2 years.
Okay,
So we're trying to get things in order so we're being proactive and not reactive. It's going to take time, but because I can't ignore things and just, I'm going to do 12 miles right here in a row, but I can move things around to try and make it better for everyone.
gotcha.
If I have my equipment in there in Ellis to do that little bit down south of the school, my equipment will already be there for sealing with the city staff, so I won't have to move it again to hit that mile there that needs addressed.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, so getting back to the fog seal, that's what everybody in our community sees, that, hey, they're going back and doing the same road. So I guess
We
our
did it
supplier,
Yeah, that's
what did
they're
they
right.
have to say about this with the flaking off? Because, like say, 280th, you don't see it on there.
Yeah,
It was done a couple months
And this
or a
is
month
something
later.
we found this aggregate is a very clean aggregate.
Okay.
So it's a 3/8 chip to a number 8. So there's no fines. There's no small particles that cause the oil to ride up on the chip and hold it down better because there's no fines. The chip seal aggregate we have actually has quite a bit of fines in it that can cause the oil to float up and better lock in the chip. So we're actually been cutting back the oil on the supplier's recommendation because it's bleeding through these chips, but it's not staying high on the chip. So that it's falling back down into the grooves, and that's what's causing this break off potentially. Or it is the polarity change between the two. So that area that we did south of the county shop down towards Munger, we did not have enough of this purplish reddish rock on hand. So we blended it with some of the quartzite chip that we've used historically in the past that has those fines. It's not a reddish purplish color that helps keep the snow and ice off. And maybe that's what caused it to keep the oil up high enough or
Okay.
it's a very minuscule charge, but it's a charge that has an effect. But we're using the oil that they use locally at the quarry. I don't know if there's something that happens in transit where it sits on those trains and then you get too much moisture in it and that's what's causing it to pop out. It's hard to tell if it's one thing or the other thing. The price went up from $48 a ton to $75 a ton, so that's priced itself out of our use. It looks beautiful and it lays beautiful the first time, but we've had these issues with this breakout.
Okay,
And
thank
some
you.
of these seals on here will be fog seals as well, so we can afford to do those 2 miles extra that we have to do something on.
Okay. I
That
just,
Big portion of that old 40 highway that we're doing from Hayes to Victoria is heavily oxidized. It can be repaired with a fog seal.
Okay.
Keep further oxidization of that road surface. And that's a third of the cost, if not between a quarter and a third of the cost of a traditional chip or scrub seal. So in order to do the 24 miles of sealing, if some of them are that lower price, we can afford to do those other miles that need those areas touched on. Still
okay.
keep it on our system.
okay, thank you for that, because I'll have that question asked when we start going out on the same
It's
road and,
unfortunately when we have to try different aggregates because the availability is just not there, there's going to be learning lessons involved. We're doing everything we can to prevent that from happening. But sometimes it's just the nature of the beast when you work with Mother Nature. Was it too wet? Did we not stockpile it correctly and had too much moisture in it? Is the charge wrong? Or was there a bad load of oil?
all right.
And does our oil supplier, did they stand behind any of the,
They have in the past. This one, they think it was potentially more moisture in it. The pile was too wet.
okay,
Because in the previous year, when we had to fog seal over this stuff, using their recommendations, they gave us a price break on the fog seal oil because they didn't have time to adequately test it. They had tested the aggregate further afterwards because we had gotten it right as we needed to seal with it. They found it to not work with the oil they supply, that correct charge that we generally purchase from the closest place. But then they've taken more samples of it here recently to do further testing on to see what is causing this and what can be done to prevent it if we want to continue using that product. But at $75 a ton, when I can get the other material for $40 a ton or less, I can't justify that cost on there, especially with the issues we've been having.
gotcha. Okay.
It looks pretty, but it just doesn't stay.
When we get our new facility, is that something that we're going to put inside?
The aggregate,
Yeah. No? Okay.
it just has to be piled correctly, so you don't
Okay.
have a flat area on
Right.
top or cone on the top. You need to have it peaked so the moisture can get away. And then when it's wet like that, if we get a heavy rainfall right before we go to seal, you take the edge of the pile off and it's dry in the center.
Okay.
That,
Unless you got a lot of snow on it, and that could have been what happened too. It was stockpiled in wintertime. Did snow get put in with the pile, and now it's too wet? There's a lot of different factors that you can't account for necessarily.
you said that aggregate that is chipping out right now, that was just received right in front of our sealing process?
The first time go around.
Okay,
So this one had been sitting out over off of 27th Street, the KDOT yard there. It was purchased back in 21, early 22. So it had been on the ground. I think a lot of that happened on that stretch of roadway was our graders doing that. And then the areas where the blades didn't hit was just something with either the oil charge or the aggregate charge, or it could be the underlaying aggregate being a different charge, causing it to separate. It's very minute charges. You can't run an ohm meter on it necessarily, but if they're not the correct charge to mesh well, the underlying chip could cause it to push off.
gotcha. Okay. Well, and the only reason I brought that up is because we've just gone through our last 2 years of drought, and to hear,
Well, I know. Well, we've been in it where it's produced may not be, and it's said it's
well,
on a rail
right,
car.
and that's
I don't know how
why I
long-
asked, is if we had just received it
No.
prior to our usage of it, or if we had had it stockpiled. Sounds like it was stockpiled 2 years or a year and a half before
And did we
usage.
accidentally leave it a trough at the very top of it? So the moisture we did get stayed in it, saturated the pile. Was there a problem with the oil, with something else being in the tank or in the bottom of the tank that didn't get cleaned out? So I can't pinpoint it to one thing or another thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. I'll move to approve PO 7805 to Heft and Sons LLC for the mixing of approximately 10,000 tons of cold mix asphalt.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank
Thank you, Brennan.
Brennan.
Next, we have annual examination of annual reports of townships.
Good morning, Bobby Dryling, County Clerk. So every year, I have to send to the townships their report to fill out that shows all their revenues and their expenses. And as you can see attached to the agenda, they were all there, minus Catherine Wheatland, because they have not had a full township board for quite a few years. But with that being said, this has effectively now dissolved the 5 townships because all of them that were holding money, they have now turned that into me, and I have now dispersed that to their corresponding townships that they were attached to. So everything looked good, and just have to let me go ahead and approve them and sign them, and I put them away.
Okay,
So do you have any questions on that?
so we are effectively down to how many townships?
4 townships.
4 townships?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
No, it's just, I have to shake my head because I always talk about somebody volunteering for something, but it don't happen. It's not that tough to do it, but it'll make it easier,
Right. So,
consolidate them, so, nope, I have no questions. Good job, Bobby.
No.
okay,
Thank you.
okay. you're
Appreciate that.
welcome. Okay.
Okay. Next, we have the election security grant.
Me again. So last fall, the Secretary of State's office put out a grant for all 105 counties. And I took advantage of that because they were saying, you know, we need to, whatever you could think of to update your security of your election equipment. It was going to be a 90-10 pay. So I took advantage of that, and as you can see by my agenda, what I purchased, I bought 8 precinct transfer bags, which what that is all my polling locations, when they're done at the end of the night, they have ballots that either did not run through the machine and they have to be hand counted, all the provisionals that they had to create, and all ballots that were dropped off at the polling site on election day. Those are all put into the precinct bag and locked up to where those are then opened up by my office when they return them on election night. I bought 2 cameras for our drop box that is out in the alley. While there was one there that looked over my drop box as long as the treasurer's drop box, this now allows, you can see the car coming down the alley, you can see the car leaving after they drop off their ballots, as well as you can see how many ballots they're depositing into the drop box, because by law you can only deposit 10. And it also gives you a visual of their face. So they're great cameras, something I can monitor all day if I want to sit and stare at the alley, which I don't, but it records it, and we keep the recording for 2 years, 22 months, which is what we have to keep for all elections. I also bought a camera for my office, which is in our election room where we store all of our ballots. This will show access of everybody walking in and out, and not only walking in and out, but actually what they're doing in that room, because that's where we keep all of our ballots up to and including election day. So I thought that was a great purchase. And then down here on the basement, we have our election room where we store all of our equipment. So we had 2 choices from the Secretary of State's office. We either had to do a sign-in sheet that shows who went in and who went out. I went ahead and applied for the grant money to have access, a badge access like we do on all of our doors, so that, you know, anybody that wants to see who's gone into that election room, it shows a badge access every time. So I thought that was a good purchase as well. You can see that the grant, the amount I requested was $8,867.04. So my 10% share is going to be $886. That cost is not final yet because we're still waiting to see what it's going to cost for the my access door down here, because I think we got a better price because we ended up replacing a few doors. So anyway, $1.9 million was expended by the state, and I believe I put on there that 84 counties took advantage of it. And I was really glad that I was one of those counties that did, because the more that I can show the public that I am keeping our elections as secure as I can, and proof that I am keeping the election secure, that raises the voter confidence. So any questions on that?
Question on the drop box that you have in ballots. Are those accounted for each day and marked as a day they were received?
Yes, by law, I have to have a Democrat and a Republican go out to the drop box every morning, and then they bring the ballots back in, and they sign off on how many they actually brought in. So thankfully, we have some opposing party. We have obviously my whole office is Republican, so we have to go into the other offices to ask if we could borrow their staff for 2 minutes. And to go out, unlock the box, takes 2 different sets of keys to unlock it. They pull the ballots out, come back in, and sign off that, yes, I account for 10 ballots that we pulled out today. So that's very secure, that
Okay.
it shows exactly what we bring in and what we count for every day.
Okay. Well, thank you, and I appreciate the effort you put forth in securing our
Yep,
elections.
you're welcome.
In the 22 months, who has access to that? You in IT, or is that kept on a separate, as far as the camera?
IT has access
Okay.
to it. So like if someone would come in and request that, I would just get with IT and they would
That's
pull
what
it
I-
off.
That
Yes.
was my next question, if somebody requests it, so, okay.
Yes.
All right, yeah, and thanks for your good work on going through the grant and saving us money.
Yeah.
And doing the county and the city some good, so.
Yep. I like being able to
Other
show
ex-
that.
What other exciting thing you got going on? Don't
Yeah,
forget
so
about
just
the-
for a quick PSA, we have the presidential preference primary election going on right now. That is March 19th. We have early voting that started yesterday and will run through noon Monday, the 18th. And I am also offering Saturday voting this year, and that will be March 16th here at the Admin Center from 8 to 1 o'clock. So I hope people take advantage of that in the event that they can't get away from school or work, that we'll be here Saturday, 8 to 1 on the 16th.
Very
And
good, thank you.
the election is March 19th at your regular polling place.
Okay.
So,
Thank you very much. Appreciate the update.
okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other business that we need to discuss?
I don't think so. Everybody's doing a great job. Thanks, Bobby.
Okay. We'll move to our administrator report.
I guess the only thing to add, not to bring Brendan back up, but just as a quick update, he let me know last night that the floor for the entire facility has been poured. And starting this week, they've delivered most of the steel for the building. And we've been informed that if we go up there, we have to start wearing hard hats because they're going to start erecting steel if they haven't done so. So you'll start seeing above ground movement on the Public Works facility maybe this week. So I'll be heading up there with Brendan here after the meeting just to check it out. But I just thought it's a good news that we're starting to go upright with the building now and start seeing some movement on it.
Good deal.
That's all I got.
Okay. County Commissioner reports. Commissioner? Got a list.
As the other two commissioners, I did attend the youth leadership thing at TMP. I also did go to the Hayes Med healthcare. That was pretty exciting. If you ever get a chance to do that, go to that. Then I also did go to Vibes just to catch up on technology, which kind of went right over top of my head, but that was pretty exciting. And the other one that I found very interesting, I went to the child care task force that they had. I didn't realize that we had 81 providers in Hayes. So if anybody needs child care, there is some child care providers out there that have openings, have had them since last August. So just to pass that on. And then I also did go to the and they got caught saying it too. They graduated another drug court, recovery court, which was nice to see again, and all the other individuals there that are keeping on task. And then Holly Dickman, I went to her presentation for the water conservation in Hayes here with the R9 thing coming in. I guess that's pretty important in what they're also offering, our citizens. And then I did go to the Ag Appreciation, and they did recognize us too, that, that we all the commissioners help out. Then I did also Saturday attend the legislative coffee. There were, at one point it was Mr. Rogers had a little raising his voice to one, but at the end he settled it out. Was very interesting. And last night I did go to the Ellis City meeting. There was some pretty interesting stuff there with the law enforcement vehicles, but they got that worked out, which was good to see. And I guess I'm going to say the other thing, happy birthday to John Waltz, which he's got it on the 8th, and Paige Zakaminik on yesterday. She had her birthday. I probably messed up her name, but last but least, the other one, I kind of took a little road trip myself. That's when I had seen some of the flaking off on the roads, which it's understandable. Anything mechanical is going to break, and it can, and it will, and it has. I don't like the acronyms, but I did make my own acronym on the road trip that I took. I put a MMT, so if anybody wants to guess, if not, I'm going to tell you. Moisture, money, and time, and we'll get our roads taken care of. It's going to take some time, that last one, so, but that's all I have.
Okay. I don't have a list near like that. I guess coming up, I've been doing a bunch of future planning with Darren for our upcoming staff retreat. So hopefully everybody who's going to be in attendance brings their ideas. Look forward to good conversation with that. I did attend the youth conference there at TMP. That was fun to be there and be a part of. I have an upcoming Workforce One commission or board that I'm on, meeting on Friday. So I'll have a update on that for next week. So that's all I have for this time.
Okay. And then I would like to thank Lori with IT this morning. So, yeah, I couldn't delete any emails, and she got me right going. So that's why we have good people. So thank you.
So, okay, with that, we will adjourn at 10:06. Thank you, everyone.